Welcome back to Bonded by Metal, our episode 10 with Andrew McKay Smith from Scars and Guitars podcast, where you get various awesome interviews from various metal artists. Andrew, welcome back for another episode. Today we have an interesting episode we're thinking about. It's the end of January, right? Well, beginning of February. And we want to just discuss the albums in January that we really enjoyed, bands we discovered in January, but not necessarily new albums, and perhaps just kind of here and there instances of just music that we can plug in, will basically encompass what January has brought to us. And I am, once again, I'll be a gentleman. Andrew, I'm gonna let you kick it off. And at the same time, man, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, brother. Yeah, it's been bloody hot here. Let me tell you, it's been 100% humidity or close to it. Not that it could be 100%, but it's been near to it, and about 38 degrees. So we're in our punishing weather phase at the moment. I don't know. Yeah, you can't really see it, but you might be able to. But there's condensation all on the.
You can see it. Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's ridiculous at the moment. Like I think it's about 28 degrees right now. So Celsius, that is, of course. We're working Fahrenheit. But mate, apart from that, doing well. Work is work. Family is family, and always a pleasure to join you to talk about some music. So I tell you what I want to do first. I bought some CDs. I haven't bought CDs in years.
What is that?
So just quickly, this one here is VHF, which is Vince Aguirre, Hoekstra, and Tony Franklin. So I don't know who Vince Aguirre is. He's a drummer, very good drummer. But Joel Hoekstra is in Trans-Siberian Orchestra and White Snake, and obviously this band and a few others. Basically an awesome gun for hire, a bit like
Tim Ripper.
Yeah, well, in terms of, he's as ubiquitous on the guitar as what Ripper is on the vocals. So good comparison there, yeah. And Tony Franklin was Jimmy Page's bassist in the Firm. But these albums came out last year, but they were compelling albums, and I wanted to buy them mainly for the car because our cars are a bit older and have CD players. Shotgun Mistress, band from Melbourne, who made my top 10 last year, and love listening to what the sound is like on CD, because I can say for sure CD quality is definitely better than MP3 through the Apple CarPlay or whatever it is. My wife does have a car, that does have Apple CarPlay, and it sucks in terms of the sound quality. And Hookers and Blow, which is Dizzy Reed from Guns N' Roses' band. So, I'm a bit of a rock music fan at heart, and I love taking the kids for a swim to the local pools here, and it's not very far. It's only about 15 minutes away, and we tend to put on that music and crank it.
Nice. Education has begun.
It definitely, not that they're paying too much attention. Believe me, they'd rather listen to YouTube music and all of the bing bing stuff, I call it. But it was just some CDs and sort of some rock music and stuff that came through last year. But I haven't bought CDs in years, and I thought, well, why don't I talk about that quickly? But I know they're not recent music; they're music that's been released over the last 6 months or so, but not through January. But we talked about the headline item of the album that I believe is the headline item of Camera. So I'll bring it up now, but that's the new Corpse Grinder album.
Corpse Grinder?
That one has certainly been the most anticipated release of 2022, in my opinion. And let me tell everybody out there, it is not a disappointing album. This is an album that lives up to the expectation and the hype. And well, look, the one thing that I hope, mate, is that an opportunity is available to chat to the man himself, because I'd love to deep dive into his thoughts and the beef that's going on between him and Chris Barnes, former Cannibal Corpse singer at the moment. That's intriguing.
That's your first album, right? Are you going to kick it off? I actually kicked off mostly with albums bands that I don't know. With the first one being Infected Rain from their new album Ecdysis that came out. It's for those who are not aware, I did the review on my album, but maybe for those who didn't tune in for that, they're from Moldova, Eastern European country, small country, a population, I believe, of 6 million people. And it's a band, again, they've had 5 or 6 albums already, but I jumped in with a new one and kind of went back in their discography. And they kind of combined this new metalcore, melodic death metal thing. But so much so when I got a chance to speak with Lena during an interview over the course of the month as well, which is another kind of highlight in itself. And she hates putting labels on music. And I like what she said. She said something really nice. She goes, nowadays, there's no such thing as pure death metal or pure thrash metal. It's always a mix of different genres because people just, they pull their interest from every single direction. But the album itself, great songs, very nicely blended. You know me, New metal, not my thing usually. Metalcore, not my thing. Blended very nicely in melodic death metal. Sounds great. Lena Scissorhands, she has the aggression of Angela Glasso from Arch Enemy, and she just has that energy. She brought that to me that I've been missing so much. Great front woman. I said I didn't want to say during an interview for her, but it's Arch Enemy with balls. That's what I would call that kind of band. It was just great from beginning to the end. And that's the first album that kind of kicked off the month for me.
Yeah, you did a great interview with her.
Oh, thank you.
I watched the interview. Yeah. She's got the tarantula hair.
Yeah.
The tarantula legs hair. Yeah, no, great interview. Yeah, good band too. You introduced me to a band there. Hey, look, Moldova, I'm a big supporter of getting behind bands from regions that don't typically produce quality heavy metal. But Moldova, here you go. You're on the map with Infected Moraine.
And with a big band, they're gaining a lot of traction.
Let me see. Nuclear Blast have been bringing it at the moment. So there's been the new Sabaton album, The War to End All Wars. Have you heard that yet?
I haven't had a chance. So, because you know what it is, the album I haven't received yet on the Nuclear Blast.
Okay, so for people who aren't aware, Sabaton tend to release two versions of their albums these days. They release a spoken word version, so you've still got the music, but you've actually got the narrative, the accompaniment to talk about whatever particular theme they've gone for this time around. Now, I can't recall what the theme is on the War to End All Wars. No doubt a World War One or Two, definitely a World War One or Two theme. But I actually prefer the History edition. Especially when and it's not the Sabaton put me to sleep, but they're a great music band to listen to when you're trying to drift off to sleep, because they've got this, they've got the metal, but then they've got this other aspect to them, and they're more like a Wikipedia of war at the moment, aren't they? They're sort of tapped into this thing that people are intensely interested in. What we're talking about, Sabaton. The other album that I've now got that I'm enjoying immensely, and I think for fans of death metal, they're going to appreciate it. One of New York's finest again, Immolation with Acts of God. Check that one out.
I am definitely excited for that one. I want to check it out myself. And I've checked out their new single. I never heard the band before, and already digging their style. They have that old school kind of death metal with kind of nice melodic overtones in the album, which I really enjoyed. But for me, man, I already talked to you about this off camera. Ashes of Aries, Emperor and Fools. I knew it was going to be the album of the month for me, for sure. I knew it just from the band, because it's Matt Barlow and Freddie Valdez from Iced Earth forming this band, right? A second band, different sound. With this third album now, they've just really stepped into their own and really created a record that's just killer from beginning to the end. Mainly because it's also their thrashiest record that they've released so far. And for me, it was, there was a first initial disappointment with Ashes of Aries that I was expecting Iced Earth 2.0. And it was a clear path of we're carving something different. We're doing something different, perhaps in the same vicinity, but it's not going to be the same. And as I've gotten into it, I really enjoyed the album. So much so, the last song, a 12-minute song, it's called Monsters Laminate. It's two vocalists of Iced Earth, Tim Ripper Owens and Matt Barlow on that song, just killing it for the whole track. I literally got goosebumps when I first heard it. And I've just been re-listening to the album over and over. It's just a fantastic record. I'm so happy to see he's still making music and they have the passion behind the music.
Yeah, but was that out? Is that out through not Nuclear Blast, Metal Blade? Sorry,
Roar, Rock, and Angels. It's a smaller label.
Rightio. That's probably why hasn't come across my inbox yet. Okay, because I'm on the majors, the Nuclear Blast, Metal Blast, Nuclear Blast, Metal Blade, Napalm. I'm on their distribution, but not that one there. I am eager to check that out, mate. No doubt about that. There was the new Amorphous album, Halo. Have you had a chance to sample any of that yet?
I just got it yesterday. I just need to get into it and listen to it.
Excellent album. My conversation with the guitarist is available from the group is available for anybody to tune into on YouTube. My comments to him were, it's a blend of everything that they've done to date and more, meaning the heavy is heavier. The melodic stuff is even more melodic. It is just more amorphous. I can't believe these bands that have been going now for 35 odd years, they still find ways to be creative, relevant, and to produce quality music it doesn't sound derivative. It sounds original. I don't know how they do it.
I gotta say, Amorphous is probably one of the only bands I can point a finger to that is literally like water when it comes to their style. They don't have a style. They do everything and they blend from one to the other so expertly because they know how to write music. They can do whatever the hell they want and it always sounds good. There's some bands it feels forced. I feel like Amorphous is just so good at it.
Yeah, they've always an album. The first album that I bought from theirs, I was certainly aware of them beforehand, but Tuanella back in 1999, that was their first album where they went away from, they embraced non-death metal stylings, non-extreme metal stylings. It's kind of got a very, very kind of, you wouldn't call it rainbow, but it kind of got that rock vibe to it with a lot of, you'd call it flutes and stuff or flute effects, this sort of thing. But it's metal. It still feels like metal, a bit like what Anathema were doing. It was like, yeah, I know they're not. This doesn't sound specifically like all of the heavy metal going on around it at the moment, but it's identifiably metal. So they're 100%. Not selling out, and then they're not throwing the fans in the bin, so to speak, at the expense of their old fans at the expense of trying to capture a new audience. And I really appreciated that about Amorphous, and I mentioned as much. And the fact, a bit like My Dying Bride, you never know what you're going to get with each album. It could be a full-on death metal album or an album with full-on death metal stylings on it, like what this one here is, Halo. Or it could be an album that has far more melodic stuff on it. But you know that at some point in time, if you stick with the band, there's going to be a bunch of stuff that you enjoy from them, and you get to go along for the ride through some other territory that you might not choose to listen to if that wasn't on the album.
And I think that's very important too. It's to listen to things that you didn't expect or didn't exactly ask for and be surprised. Because then you discover things about yourself and about music that you listen to that you might have not on your own picked up. I'm going to introduce another band. Again, mostly new bands that I've never checked out is Battle Beast. I've been reacting to their music on my channel, and I thought it was time. Like, okay, new album coming out. It's a great chance to get into a band. With their second vocalist, Nora, right? She's a commanding front woman. She's elegant, and she got a metal attitude. And the album, I thought was just... I've mentioned I am not a big power metal fan. Like the power metal got to be really rough for me to get into, hence why I liked Iced Earth so much. But it had that 80s cheesy power metal vibe, but they did it so well, and the songs were so well written. Like Russian Roulette is probably the best song I've heard this month. Not maybe the best album, but the best song, because it's just pure metal goodness. It's that old school Judas Priest, Iron Maiden feels that you would get. That's very rare to get now. I thought the album captured that magic, and it was really, really good. I just loved the mixture of the whole album. The way they put keyboards in there, and they had synthesizers. They played around with a lot of elements, and it made for, I think, a very, very, very strong album. I understand why they're topping charts right now with that album, why there's so much hype about this band. I do enjoy them a little bit more than their sister or brother band, the way we want to say it, Beast in Black, because I know it's the guitarist obviously went away and kind of created the band. But I enjoy Battle Beast more. I like their style very much so.
Yeah, great pick. I just had a conversation with Nora as well. Nice. My second conversation with her, and it was far more revealing than the first one, I've got to say, because she actually talked about Anton Kabanin, who is Beast in Black's guitarist, who actually, I think he's the foundation member, the bloke who started Battle Beast. And she didn't allude to it. She pretty much came out and said, yeah, he used to put me down, or words to the effect, and it used to affect my confidence, this sort of thing. So you could see why the split happened early on. And I would have liked to have gone a bit deeper on it, but the quality of the line wasn't that good either. So it's always difficult when the quality of the technology isn't there, because you can't really hear what someone's saying that well, and the nuances, and also the way in which they're saying it. When people are talking about these things, musicians that is, you really do need to be able to hear the inflection in their voice to pick up on where the emotion is. And there was plenty there when she was talking about that. But the music is what's important. And to your point, Circus of Doom, the new one from Battle Beast, is an absolute banger. My prediction, and I made this prediction, or shared this prediction with Nura, I believe that's an album that'll bring him to the top of the charts.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe so too.
Meaning the charts that, not in Australia or the US, we're a bit different here, but in Germany, Okay,
Yeah,
I think that it'll be top 5, but it could be number 1 there on their mainstream charts because it's one of the songs. I can't remember the name of it now, but it sounds like a heavy version of Pink. So I don't think that's been a strategy. Actually, I'm confident that it's not been a strategy from the group because I asked Noura about that. But it's got that full-on Cirque du Soleil, Friday night cocktails vibe thing going on to it. It's a sort of song that it could easily end up on a soundtrack somewhere, could be picked up for syndication on free-to-wear markets, this sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Free-to-wear broadcasters in mainstream markets. Yeah, that is a band that I hope achieves broader recognition and mainstream success.
I know they topped one of the charts. I don't know if it was Finland, their
Yeah, it
home
would be.
country.
You're
Yeah, the
right.
home
Yeah, it
country,
was.
right?
Yeah. But it's a smaller market there. Germany's got 80 million, 90 million people or more, or whatever it is, and as we know, Germany just doesn't seem to give a shit about the trends going on around it. Heavy metal has always been popular there. Saxon were a top band there throughout the 90s. Saxon.
I'm excited for that new album, man. I still haven't gotten my hands on it yet.
Oh, it's crazy. I mean, we shouldn't talk about age, but hey, let's talk about age because Biff is well into his 70s, if I'm not mistaken, yet still crafting quality metal.
Last 2 albums were fucking great from Saxon.
Yeah.
Top quality stuff. I'm going to actually mention another one here is Dawn of Solace. I think we talked about Tomas and kind of brushed over this guy, this character. And I think he created a really killer record with Dawn of Solace. Again, a new band that I haven't really listened. I've listened to Wolfheart. I got into Wolfheart. I really enjoy the aggression of Wolfheart. There's this emotional aspect to all the music he makes. If Wolfheart brings aggression, to me, Dawn of Solace brought beauty. And I got a chance to interview him as well. This guy, I've never met anybody as hardworking as he is. This guy's just a monster. It's like he's doing like 3 albums at a time. And ask him the questions like, do you decompress? He's like, oh yeah, I'm a landscaper. I'm like, decompress, not work. He's like, no, I can't imagine not writing music for a moment. I can't imagine not releasing an album. He just has so much pent up creative energy. Fantastic. And something he said, which I felt he said it ahead of me in the interview is, he's like, I don't think I'm a great guitarist or drummer. I think is the way I write music that kind of comes together and what makes it interesting. It's like, because as a guitarist, like I'm good enough to write music and in a studio I can do it, but I would need other people to really play it because I'm not at that level. And I told him, I'm like, I agree with what you're saying. The idea that your music is not like, oh, this riff is amazing or this solo is amazing or that vocal line was really cool. It's just how it all comes together as a united symphony almost. What made I think the album very special. And Mikko's vocals. I think he has a really nice, again, emotional counterpart to the music that is very much needed. And I really like those doomy, kind of gloomy, melancholic albums coming out of Finland and Sweden and all these, Anathema back in the day, Theater of Tragedy and Dream Theater. It was really, really popular in the 2000s, right?
Yeah, I'm hearing you. Yeah, I've got to check them out again. Yeah, you bring up some stuff that I'm not too familiar with. So I'm going to dive into that. But I've got to talk about a band that I'd never heard of before until recently. And I don't even think they've been on anybody's radar. But are they released through Sharp Tone or Nuclear Blast? It's Nuclear Blast, but it's a band called Alona. Okay. Now, ambient metalcore. That's what it sounds like. Sounds like it shouldn't work, does it? Sounds like it'd be pretty shit, actually.
Pretty shit.
It works. Their album, Hangman's Chair. Look, I give everything one spin. It gets sent through. If it's from the majors, as I say, Nuclear Blast, Metal Blade, Napalm. I understand a lot of thought. They've gone through a process. There's a gatekeeping process there. I trust them. They generally have. It's just whether or not you like what the band is doing, but it's still quality music.
Yeah.
Well, I like what this band is doing. I went for a walk the other night and thought, now's the time to put this one on. I might listen to it for 30 seconds or 5 minutes, but anyway, I'll give it a chance and usually skip through the tracks, whatever. I didn't skip through the tracks. They played. It's an album, and here's the key point why I like it. It took me on a journey.
Nice.
It was ebbing and flowing like this. And those guys, the closest reference for people listening that I could offer would have to be the new Deaf Heaven album, which I think is magnificent as well. Not really all that heavy, but there's enough metal on there to keep the average metal fan satisfied, provided they're looking for something different. So that's outside of the Corpse Grinder album. That's been my pick of the month so far, that one.
Oh, nice. So yeah, again, see, complete surprise there. I don't know anything about them. Perhaps I got to check them out now. For me, is a band next album, and this is probably the last album I have. I have others that I have more interesting things to talk about, but here is a band that basically everybody I talk to do not really know them, because they only have, this is their second album. They're coming from Netherlands, and that's Spartan with their album of Kings and Gods. It's essentially power metal mixed with melodic death metal. Now, I think when you think about melodic death metal, it's like, isn't that what it is already? No, there is a difference. When you listen to this, there's clear power metal riffs, chorus lines, even like there's just things that make it different from a traditional melodic death metal band. And the way they have twin guitar melodies on the album, how they write songs, I think are stronger than most bands that I listen to, period. They just have a really good understanding of how to write music and how to bring back riffs and change them up a little bit, or how to have these interesting choruses. And for me, it was an album that wasn't catchy, or I could pick this song out, but just worked so well. Extremely well written, well produced. Everything is like, you can hear a pin drop on the album. The heavy and melodic elements that they kind of put together, I really like Spartan. So much so I knew that, for example, to give you a perspective, I have more subscribers than they do, and they've been around for longer. That's a damn shame, because it's a band that just needs to be recognized more and given a chance, like Bellacore or other smaller bands that are still growing. And I'm going to get a chance to actually interview them next week. I think for that reason alone, I believe they deserve a lot more eyes on them. Not enough people are paying attention to them, because I said this on my review. I've got a chance to review bands or react to bands that for some reason get really pushed by their labels, and I don't think they're that good. And I don't mean like objectively, that they really can't write music. And for some reason, a band like this just doesn't get pushed forward, and I would like to at least put my part in that.
Yeah, the masses are asses is the old saying, and so true, because labels are forever trying to unlock this code about promoting very vanilla bands at the expense of the more creative bands like Spartan, who I haven't heard yet, but I'm going to take your word for it because you know what you're talking about. These guys are an original group. But I mean, that's talk about this for a moment again. The social media thing. I mean, you can buy likes and buy followers and buy views for YouTube through family, and all this stuff is out there. It's then you get a band who clearly aren't doing that. They're just letting the music speak for themselves, but they're suffering because the average metal fan won't necessarily have an opportunity. Hey, you can't hate the player, you got to hate the game, but the game is what you've got to get out there, and you've got to game the algorithm in order to sort of let your band sort of go to the top of the pile, so to speak, when people are searching through YouTube or Spotify. The Spotify is the big thing these days, so it might not be for much longer with what's going on. But you know, the point is that it's all about an algorithm, and you've got to find about ways of gaming the system. Otherwise, your band just suffers, and people don't get to hear you.
I agree with you, man. And it was a point I had with Matt Barlow. I asked him that question. I'm like, as a veteran musician who knew what it was like to sell albums before social media and internet, and now after, how do you feel about it? And he's just like, it's like, we don't get shit as musicians. He's like, and I don't blame the label, because the label doesn't get shit. Because people just don't consume music the same way. You know, before it was albums, now it's singles or separate songs people buy. They don't buy the full album. They don't buy the physical. They buy it digital. For example, I'm part of the problem, to be honest. I don't like buying physical copies. I don't need to stockpile. Yeah, I don't like to stockpile it in the house. I just want to listen to the music. I'm willing to pay for the money, but if I'm really honest with you, most of the time I use YouTube Music for all of it. So I don't even buy the albums anymore. I just stream them because of the convenience. I can't help the convenience of it all. So my support has always been T-shirts, concerts and things like that. So where they actually get a big portion of the money.
Well, I think we're doing our bit too by talking about the bands. Like I'm with you too. I buy T-shirts whenever I can. I particularly buy merch at shows because I want the tour dates on the back. I like that. So I really generally won't buy a T-shirt off the internet. There's a few exceptions, just one-off pieces that I see that bands do. The 60 run of 60. Riddick has been doing some stuff for Lamb of God, and was it Metallica, another big band anyway. But it was something that's once off, bespoke piece. There's bugger all of them around, never to be done again. Boom, limited edition. Apart from that, but yeah, I mean, look, what can people do? We're all streaming stuff these days. I know I haven't held up some CDs before, but it's because I've got a car that doesn't have a. I mean, you can get Bluetooth in it, but it just sucks. So the CDs sound better quality when we're driving along on the motorway, and you got the roar of the engine and the tires on the tarmac and stuff. You want to hear the quality of the music over and above that. But the Matt raised a good point there. If the artists aren't making any money and the labels aren't making any money, it's the streaming platforms. And what he didn't say, or potentially did, was that the streaming platforms are cleaning up.
He mentioned that, yeah.
Yeah, well, that sucks. It sucks, but then what can we do? How do we get around it? I mean, you've got to go to alternative platforms where the artists do get a bigger cut, but then it's tough because we're creatures of habit. So we keep on returning to Apple Music, YouTube Music, and Spotify, the big three. I'm sure there's a couple of others around, but they're the big ones that we as rock and metal fans tend to gravitate towards. So I feel like there's two sides of the same coin. There's that side we've just spoken about there. The other side of it, and because I grew up in an era as a kid when you had to buy CDs, and CDs in Australia were up to $35 Australian, which is ridiculous. I mean, it was ridiculous. You were literally paying, you couldn't buy more than one or two a month, especially as a diehard music fan when you wanted like 10 a week. But when Napster came in and it broke it all open, okay, get Metallica's perspective on that. I think they were wrong, by the way, but either way, it's not really at the scale of it as a problem, but it's not any different to tape trading. Eventually the market was always going to correct itself. It did. It has. Might not be in a way that the artists and the labels wanted to, but at least they're getting something from sharing of music online, the clip that they get from Spotify and Apple Music. But the reach now, so you can be a small independent band from Chile, okay, and you can have fans in the Netherlands or Australia, or the United States. That wasn't there before. People have got to sort of remember that you've now got Bandcamp, YouTube, all of the streaming platforms. You can create your own website. You got all of the social platforms where you can provide. Like the guy from Spotify said it best. He goes, "It's no longer." I'm paraphrasing here. Okay, he said it wasn't about the albums anymore. It's about content, providing meaningful content. Hey, hate the game. Don't hate the player. Okay, that's just the game at the moment. Okay, and you can choose to participate and get your band up there, or in Spartan's case, and no disrespect to them whatsoever, you can have 1,500 followers on YouTube and on Facebook and what have you, and have a very limited audience. It says nothing about the quality of the music that you're producing, but look, for God's sakes, you've got to get it out there to people.
I 100% agree with you, because you know what it is, a savvy young group. It's happening more with young people. The savvy people understand the use and algorithm and how to really exploit it the proper way and create their own YouTube channels. And they probably get paid more from creating a really lively YouTube channel than they would even from their music. I can't tell you how many independent artists I would listen to basically made all their money from YouTube. And I think it's become a necessity, just like you said. What I was going to ask you also is, have you had anything this month that you didn't get a chance to get to yet? That was going to come out in January?
Let me see here. There's plenty of stuff that I've downloaded. Let me see if there's anything. Oceans have got a new one out that I haven't listened to yet. Creator have something out called Bootleg Revolution, which is a live album. I haven't checked that one out yet. The short answer is no, not yet. I've checked out just about everything that I've wanted to, but there's always stuff that's on the horizon. The new Megadeth, I'm intensely interested to hear what the guys do there and who the bassist is going to be. I don't know when that one's coming out, though, unless anybody does. I haven't seen a published release date yet. Not that it isn't out there, probably, but I just haven't seen it yet. But not really. I mean, you know how it is, mate. As a lifelong fan of rock and metal, you sort of just let the year unfold and surprises come up like a loner. But by and large, looking out for some of the biggest stuff from Megadeth, and just keep on the opportunities to have conversations, like I was saying off camera earlier. Joachim from Sabaton is for me is tonight. So I haven't spoken to him before. Spoken to Par a few times, but I think in our position, mate, well, certainly in mine, actually the interviews are the most compelling reason to sort of get into it still. The music is one thing, but the actual conversation is to find out what's going on behind it, that journalistic approach. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'm sure this year will unfold like every other year, where there will be some disappointments and some absolute bangers that'll come from left field.
See, I've had an album that I didn't get a chance to get to just because of time. I've been really busy, and that's Shadow of Intense, new album LG. I wanted to check it out and see what it's all about, because there's a lot of hype around this album. And I've actually I've been on this journey for the past couple of years of really trying to get into Meshuggah and just not being able to get into that polyrhythmic style of playing. I just don't understand it, right? But it's those moments I think we've all had. Something special is there. It. There's a reason why there's millions of people are hardcore fans, which should be a very obscure band. They should be by definition, because they're not easy to get into. But I couldn't get into it. And especially this last month of trying a couple of singles, them releasing their new single, Abysmal Eye, which right away I enjoyed. And I think it's starting to click for me in my brain. Listening to Bleed, listening to Abysmal Eye, Rational Gaze, I'm like, you know what? I think it's time. I need to jump into an album. And I think that's what I'm planning to do in February. And I'll do like a full album reaction, just to see a raw reaction of a person who's not into Meshuggah and how that reaction is going to come about. I've also discovered another band, and that's mainly because I first got an interview with this band, and then I told myself, I can't interview somebody I don't know. I have to check their discography out, and that's Dagobah. And they're like industrial groove metal with like symphonic electronic overtones. Holy shit, I was surprised how good it is. With their past two albums, or their past couple albums, Black Nova and Poseidon, really good. And to my surprise, I'm like, how am I not aware of this band? 8 albums into their career, I've never heard of them. That's because they're more popular in Europe and France, where they're from, than they are in the United States. And they're kind of trying to break through the barrier in the United States more.
Yeah, I've certainly heard of them, but I've never heard them. So yeah, Australia and America are very similar that way. But I just want to go back to Meshuggah. Yeah, Immutable is the name of the new album. It'll be out on 1st of April. Yeah, that's an album. I've heard the single. I think everybody can hear the single. It's now on YouTube. That's where I heard it. It feels a bit different, but it sounds. It's definitely got many characteristics that are similar to the music of the past, but it feels like they've got a more raw edge going on to them, which I quite like, actually. Frederick Nordstrom, one of the greatest guitarists of the modern era, the postmodern era. So his tone is taking it somewhere different. It'll take a while to get used to it, but mate, those polyrhythms, they can't be beaten from Meshuggah. Looking forward to that one.
You know what I didn't understand about this band? This is where I'm going to show my lack of knowledge, right? Because as a musician, I think you can appreciate it more because you understand the difficulty of it all, and and it helped me to watch drum teachers on YouTube explain the idea of how hard it is for Hake to keep going at the pace that he's going, and the fact that if he messes up even a little bit, he throws everybody else off, because it has these, every 4 measures or something, it comes back to the same rhythm. And I started watching these things. I'm like, holy fuck, this is crazy. But at first I said, this is difficult, but why should I like this just because it's difficult? That was my first reaction. Why should I like this just because it's difficult? It should be pleasing to the ears. And for some reason, forcing myself to listen to Bleed and these songs multiple times, just one moment I sat there and I got the rhythm. And then somebody's words came into my mind saying that Meshuggah, you have to treat the guitars almost as a percussion system, instrument, not as a traditional guitar. It's all about the rhythm that they're taking you on and how it subtly changes and flows. And once I got that, I was like, whoa, this is different.
My understanding of Meshuggah, the way that they approach songcraft is not necessarily about polyrhythms, but something called polymeters. Now, the guitars are playing in these very strange time signatures like 5/16 and 17/16, but the drums by and large play a fairly straight beat with some off stuff in there to sort of keep up with what the guitars are doing. I don't know how they do it. Like I'm not saying I struggle with 3/4 timing and 7/8 timing as a musician, but it's not easy. You've actually got to stop and think about it. And bands like Soundgarden did it a lot. Iron Maiden have never done it. So it's one of those things where if you're listening to a band like Iron Maiden and you jump across to Meshuggah or Soundgarden and you hear it, you're like, oh, why have they done that for? Well, I mean, Meshuggah, it's their trademark, effectively. These 5/16 time signatures. It's very off. It's very awkward. You can't really sort of headbang along to it easily.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
yeah, and I think they've done that on purpose. And they've, the inventors of djent or pop, they've certainly, maybe if they didn't outright invent it, they popularized it globally. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, legends, Meshuggah. I sincerely hope an opportunity comes up to have a conversation with Thomas, or because I think he lives in New York these days. His wife is the chick from Orange is the New Black.
Okay, okay.
I think
Ruby Rose. No. One of them.
No, yeah, she's Australian actually, Ruby. Yeah, one of them anyway. I spoke to Nick Barker from Cradle of Filth. She actually tours with what's the Mexican band? Brujeria.
Yeah.
She tours with them. So she's married to the drummer, obviously, in Meshuggah, Big Thomas, but I want to talk to Frederick a big time. He's one of the last. There's 2 or 3 people that are on my bucket list that I have yet to talk to. That when I tick them off, there's not many people after that I want to talk to that I haven't yet. But yeah, Meshuggah, I'm just checking my list to see what else is coming up that might be of interest to people out there.
I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, before you start with the list.
Go. Yeah.
As a fan of Meshuggah and somebody who's not into them, what would be your recommendation for an album for me to jump into? Because I've gotten a lot of different recommendations. There was Obsidian, one of the album, Colossus, and there was another album that was recommended to me. I would like to, because I trust your opinion as well. Where do you think I should jump from?
It's a good question.
What will be your album?
I'd probably avoid the really early stuff, and I'd go straight to 2002's Nothing. Okay.
Nothing.
Yeah, Obzen is more like it's one big song on the album.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a bit too hard for someone who's starting out. Nothing, I think, is, in my opinion, is probably their most complete album. It's listenable for a start, but it has all of the characteristics that made them explode throughout the 90s. It's an album released in 2002. Yeah, personal favorite is Chaos Fear, because that's the first one that I heard in 1998, and your first one is generally your Touchstone. But Nothing was the album where I think they just went boom, and they became a supernova after that.
Got it. I will check it out then.
Cool. Yeah, definitely check it out. But there's one band I want to talk about that divides opinion like few others, and you may know where I'm headed. Ghost.
See, I know so little of them, because every time I try to get into them and listen to them, they're just not for me. They're not bad. Well, they're just not for me.
Yeah, I'm going to give them a go. I think they get a pass from me because they have all of the dark and satanic themes. They're basically King Diamond.
Yeah. King Diamond reincarnated.
That's what it reminds me of. I mean, the whole even looks a bit like King Diamond, with he's got some prosthetics and shit going on, but still Tobias dresses up, and that it reminds me of King Diamond, maybe because I was a King Diamond fan well before Ghost, but I see the similarities. We'll see how it turns out. I've certainly heard the single, and it's their stuff. It doesn't not sound like them. It sounds like melodic FM. It could be Journey or Foreigner or something, with just a little bit harder, of course, but that's the vibe that it's got going on. It's just Lou Gramm, dark Lou Gramm, but look, I'll always give them a go and just see how the album works out. I think it'll be interesting.
For you, since you mentioned Ghost, and you're a fan of King Diamond, I'm sure you're a fan of Merciful Fate as well.
Oh, big time, yeah.
You ever found their music to have this weirdness to them that's, again, also just like Meshuggah, they're not easy to get into? I think King Diamond's voice, with the way they play music, it could be off-putting at first, because he has such a unique voice, which, for example, was the case for me until I got into like Abigail, which I believe was the first album I listened to, I really got into.
Yeah, I thought he sucked at first in the 90s. I mean, you could buy the albums for like $5 in secondhand record stores. So I'd go and get them and I'd put it on going, I was expecting, it was one of those things where like the album cover didn't match the music. So you're expecting something that sounded like Cannibal Corpse, something heavy anyway. Yeah. And then you get this stuff and you're like, what are you doing, mate? Stop it. But no, it's an acquired taste. You got to work at it.
Yeah. I agree with you.
you know. But apart from Ghost, what else have we got? We've got, I'm just going to go back to my list and see what else is coming up. But Animals and Leaders, you guys have heard me talk about them a little bit. Parhesia is the name of their album. But here's a good one. Let's talk about this one, Abath.
You're speaking my language. You're speaking my language. There was a comment on the video I did a reaction to Dream Call, and the guy is like, "This sounds nothing like fucking old school Immortal." It almost like it gave me the impression that he doesn't like it. And I wanted to say, what I really wanted to say is like, do you need some like Q-tips for your ears because you don't know what the fuck you're listening to? Because yes, it's not 100% at the Heart of Winter, Battle Beasts, Damned in Black, all their albums, Sons of Northern Darkness. But they've been evolving, both Demonaz and Abath, in their own way, because since they split, they've been evolving in their own kind of way and taking the band in a more melodic road while still keeping their thrash and black metal kind of roots. And I absolutely love where Dream Call is going, because it's going. You ever heard of Eye Between Worlds, their project?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I liked it a lot. Yeah.
It has like classic rock elements with that black metal, because he's very much influenced by classic rock. Wrath of the Titans was written because he was listening to that Led Zeppelin song, Kashmir.
Yeah.
And he's like, he took the rhythm from there and changed it. And because he's such a big fan of Led Zeppelin. So you can hear it. That's where the album is going, Dream Call. His first two albums from Abath are fantastic, but they're more mimicking Immortal. I think this has the DNA of Immortal. It makes me reminisce of what it was, but he's also taken that Eye and Demonaz sound that they've created to this kind of realm. I'm so hyped for this album. Now you open my mouth on this one, I can talk about for hours.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I tell you why it's an intriguing album. I could be wrong here, but I think this is the first album that Abath has actually written. You know, even so, that Eye album was actually written by Demonaz. You know why I know that? I've spoken to Demonaz about it. Demonaz has given me the lowdown on their partnership, okay? Abath is the consummate frontman. Never take him away from that, but hasn't written a lot of music, okay? It's all been Demonaz up to this point. Now, their partnership is now, it's about 10 years now that they've not been together or thereabouts, almost a decade. Okay, that last Abath album was meant to be, here's the tip, I don't know why Blabbermouth didn't pick up on this when we had the chat, that was meant to be an Immortal album. Abath took those songs after he left and turned them into an Abath album. So Demonaz actually wrote them. Okay.
I have a difficulty, not because I love Abath, I love Demonaz just as much. I have a hard time believing that, hearing it from one band member telling me, oh yeah, I wrote them. Because I'm sure you asked the same question from Abath, he's going to tell me he wrote the music. What I can tell you is for both of these guys, once they split and the music has changed for both of them, because I know it to the core what the music is like. It has changed, and you can tell where the creative differences came in. I think Demonaz was the one pushing for more melody in music, where Abath wanted to keep that harshness and older sound that they've had. If you listen to the past two Abath albums, you can clearly hear it there. And I don't believe for a second from Demonaz that he wrote enough songs that it is for two Abath albums. That's just like, that's ridiculous. You know what I mean? So for me, from my perspective as a fan, I think they both wrote songs, and I could believe that Demonaz wrote more. Sure, he wrote all the lyrics. That's known by everybody. He writes most of the lyrics he's always had. You can tell the difference in quality of lyrics when you listen to Abath versus when you hear like At the Heart of Winter and how gloomy it is.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I got a different take on it. Yeah, I'm like you. I'm an old fan. I'm pretty sure Pure Holocaust was about the first. Well, Deicide's Legion was the first extreme metal album I ever bought. I think the second one was Pure Holocaust. Yeah. Yeah, look, I just with all of the conversations that I've had, I've rarely. What I say, I don't think I've ever spoken to anybody that's lied about things. I just don't think Demonaz had mentioned it if it wasn't the case, you know. And look, people forget what happens in rehearsal studios and when they're writing things. But the reason I think there's Demonaz is on point is because the new single, I can't remember the name of the new single from Abath, but it's on YouTube.
Dream Call?
Yeah, very Motorhead. Reminds me of like Motorhead taken further. And I think that's great because Abath is in I can't remember the name of the band, but he's in a Motorhead cover band.
Bombers, something. I remember. I don't know what you're talking about. He's so good. He mimics Lemmy's voice one in one. It's insane what he did. Ace of Spades. How well he mimics his voice.
One thing about Abbott too, there's an old video where there's like half of the Norwegian black metal scene on stage when they were like 14 or something like that. Like they've got like Motley Crue t-shirts on, I think, and shit. They look ridiculous, but they got the long hair and stuff. The one guy on stage that you look at and go, that guy was born to play music and be a showman was Abbott. Had blonde hair, being, Scando, he's got the blonde hair and stuff. And it's just incredible to see, like, we were all put here on God's green and blue earth to do something right. Abbott was clearly put on this planet to be an entertainer, and he's doing these weird moves that I couldn't even pretend to mimic right now. But he's smiling. He's got this goofy smile on and everything else. And I know he's had some issues lately, but isn't it a great thing that he's out there still producing music and bringing metal to the masses?
Have you ever seen Immortal live?
No, they're a band that I definitely need to see. That they're on my bucket list. I have 2 or 3 again.
So happy before they broke up. I saw them one time live with Absu. Oh, they were so good, and I got to see in person that showmanship. And what I've always loved about him, despite being an extreme black metal band, he's so silly. He doesn't take himself too seriously. I love that about him, and no matter what happens between them two or how they've split and what their music is created, for me, At the Heart of Winter, Sons of Northern Darkness, and oh my God, the one right after with the 2 crows, those 3 albums are always going to be extremely special in my heart. Is the reason why I put Immortal at the top of my list of my favorite bands of all time.
Yeah, actually, I'll just mention it. My book's coming out on the 20th of February, so it'll be available for people to purchase then. It's an e-version. I'm going to try and get a print copy done fairly soon if people want that. But Demonaz makes my book, and we talk all about the split between them and Demonaz's thoughts on their partnership and why the split occurred. Okay, and look, I think this is out there for anybody, but Abbott loves to live life. He likes to take stuff, substances. There's that classic footage of him having a meltdown on stage in South America. And, you can be like, there's the old fable about Icarus flying too close to the sun. And when you're a touring musician, I think you're basically up there, and alcohol, I can tell you as a musician, you don't play better. I want to be clear here, but you certainly enjoy it a lot more if you've had 2 beers before you go on stage. There's no question.
There's a danger in it.
Yeah, you've just got to, I think I'm with Des Fafara from Devil Driver and Coal Chamber on that. Just don't drink when you're on tour. That's the easiest solution. When you come home, by all means, go and get blotto in your living room. But when you're on tour, don't do it. And I think Abbott's is a pretty good example of that.
And I think they're also from an era where it was still just wild, like the 80s wild kind of going on. And I think younger bands that are sprouted in the 2000s and later, they're so much smarter. They're so much healthier. They take it a lot more seriously because they're looking for longevity. So many bands we've grown up with, they've withered away because they just destroyed themselves. And we're lucky to even have people like Alice Cooper around because his wife dragged his ass out of drugs and alcohol and everything he was in, But how many people had that kind of a story?
Yeah. Alice is an interesting one. He's Dave Mustaine's sobriety godfather. So he's the one that Dave Mustaine turned to get him out of it, because I think those guys went on tour. Megadeth and Alice went on tour in the 80s. And he saw the amount of heroin and alcohol that Dave and the 2 Daves were doing and realized that they had to, they didn't change their ways fairly soon, they'd be dead.
Yeah.
That's the thing, Neil Young, in my opinion, he's definitely got it wrong recently with bloody Joe Rogan, I hate censorship, but he said it best in his song that every junkie's like a setting sun, heroin, the needle and the damage done, that classic song that he wrote. God knows, that's the one drug that I simply, with the amount of information that's out there, Janis Joplin, all these great musicians, within a year or 2 of starting it, they're dead.
Yeah.
It's just a short route to death. Anyway,
and
not to be too much of a downer.
I was gonna say, what I'm gonna say is for our closing statement for today, we talked about just things we've discovered, music we like, talk about music in general and things we're looking forward to a little bit as well. I would like to close it out by, I'm excited what this year is going to bring for both of us. And for all the fans of music in general, I think there's going to be a lot of really interesting things. And I want to leave this off. My closing statement is going to be more of a toast. I'm going to wish both of us creating this content to really sprout our wings beyond where we've had before, and perhaps find a couple surprises along the way, music or non-music related, that are really gonna solidify this year to be something interesting.
No, I'm with you. Yeah, I mean, this has been great that we're doing this. This is fantastic. Trying to bring, just to that comment that I made earlier about trying to bring different content for people. The only thing that I think we're limited by is the amount of time we can devote to things. It's just, I mean, look, it's, 6:03 a.m. for me here. We're on different sides of the planet. We're still able to do this because we're passionate about it. As I say, I've got my book coming out. Here's the question I'd like to ask our audience. Okay, what other content do you want to see? Not just necessarily from us, but what sort of content do you enjoy? Is it those, I don't like them, but those Instagram shorts that are the big rage these days, and the YouTube shorts, 30-second videos of people doing weird things? I just don't have the energy, to be honest with you. But if that's what people want, please let us know.
Yeah, definitely. I would. It's a very good point you brought up. I would very much like to hear what drives you and what captures your eye, attention, and heart when you're coming to YouTube or you're coming to Instagram or TikTok, because it's just interesting to hear what people are going through and how are they consuming various forms of internet, as we are on our own as well. You might not see all of it on our channels, but we are just like you, consuming it just the same. And it's interesting just to share stories together.
Yeah, indeed. We are in the information age. Another good one, mate. Enjoyed it.
Thank you very much, man. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too, brother.